Are you trying to make your sample beat sound like this?
G-block, all we know is red rum.
In today's video, we're going to be going over 3 mistakes that's making your sample beat sound trash, and I'm going to show you how to fix them so the next time you make a beat, it's going to go from sounding boring to actually something the artist will want to get on. But make sure you watch to the end, because if you make that third mistake, fixing mistake 1 and 2 will be for nothing. For the first mistake you're making is causing your samples to go from this to this. So to show you where you went wrong and how to fix this, I got 4 sample chops right here. And the original tempo of this sample is at 104. Let's say you want to change the tempo from 104 to 116. So we go to warp, and then we turn on warp and turn on BPM sync. Now your sample will lock to any tempo, but the further you go up or down, then the sample quality just starts to diminish. So you can hear there's like a little artifacts. It don't really sound like it's the best kind of stretching. So the quick fix to this is to stretch it in the sample edit mode. And from here, I could just go to process, go to my time stretch, and go to 116. Now let's hear how that sounds. Now that we have a good tempo, I went ahead and added a simple drum pattern to go along with it. But this second mistake can easily just make or break your sample beat, and this is having a bad bass line. Now real quick, I just want to answer a common question that I get asked a lot, and that is, where can I find great samples? Without diving too deep into it, I use TrackLib, and so does many industry producers and online producers. It's like a very popular site that a lot of people go. You just get those nice quality tracks. So I'm in Pad Perform. I have an 808 pulled up. Now I just want to go to notes so I could put it in the scale of the actual beat. And for this sample, it's actually in A minor, but I pitched it up 2. So we're just going to go up 2, and that brings us to B minor instead. So now let's play with the beat. You can tell that is not sounding right. Now, if this is happening to you, the mistake you're making is not tuning your 808s to C. So let's just do shift and mute to bring us to sample edit. Now, this is only in the case where your 808 is not tuned to C. As you can see, mine is tuned to D. It depends on the kit that you have. I also have the Unison kit where all the 808s are tuned to C. I have a link in the description. You could go check that out if you want to. But I got this particular 808 from Splice. So what you want to do is go to the second page in your sample edit mode, and you can see that the MPC also detect the key, which is D. You don't have to worry about the major or minor. We're just talking about the one single note. Now we just want to tune D to C. D to C is only 2 notes away, because D sharp and then C. So using this tune knob, we could go to 2. Now you can always just change the root note, but I like to have it on C. Now another mistake when it comes to your bass line is just simply overthinking it. So now that we have it tuned correctly, we could go back to shift 16 levels, and then we could play along with the sample. You can already hear that it's hitting better. Let's just listen to the lower tones of the sample. It's going like dun 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 dun. And the fact that these are very short chops, it makes it a lot easier to follow along with the bass line, because it's not gonna be switching up so much. And just from hearing it, I can hear that it's playing the perfect 5th interval. So it's going from B to F sharp. So let's just play along. Now another thing that you can do is actually use the bass in your sample. We could just go to an empty track, and then we can go to our sample. And what we can do is just duplicate the sample chop program so that we have a separate program. And then we could just go to this icon right here. We could just turn off these ones for right now. And I have the Air EQ pulled up, but for this, we're going to use the preset called lows only. And it will sound like this. You can just hear that bass, and just to make it a bit more clear, what we're gonna do is actually just first start off putting the stereo width on this and putting it in mono because you can hear that it's in stereo. So let's go to our modulation and go to stereo width. And we're just gonna turn that down so it's in mono. So off. You can hear how wide it sounds. Now you can hear how it's more in the center. And then we can still hear a bit of those vocals. So with the low pass filter, we can just turn that on, bring it a bit down. You can also bring up the resonance if you want more saturation, and that's going to help your bass line play on any devices because you're adding more harmonics to your sound. Now when you add back everything else, it will sound like this. Now, if you want to take it up a notch, because like I said, you don't always have to play along with the same pattern as your sample, what you can do is just go back to menu, go to looper, and we could put it on resample and record that in. And we could just export that and name it baseline. And then press edit. And then what we can do is go to our chop mode and just do threshold chop. So with threshold chop, it's gonna like split each individual note. So now I can play it more freely. Once you have your chops, convert it, new drum program using slices. And then we could go to a new pattern and we could switch this program to our chops and then just mute everything else. And then we could just play along like this. Before we get into the last mistake, if you've been liking the tips in this video so far, there's a lot more quick and easy tips that you can find on my YouTube shorts. But as you can see, I have many on my channel with titles that aren't really direct to simply find what you're looking for. So I went ahead and made an ebook called Sauce It Up, which compiles my YouTube shorts into a more organized way and categorized chapter and more straightforward titles, making it a lot easier to search specific points. And I also added links to each video. You can find the link in the description for more information. Now that we pretty much got a beat going, that leads us to our third mistake. And you must get this right or artist is simply going to skip over your beat and pick a beat that is probably not as great of a melody as yours, but it doesn't sound boring. And you probably already seen it a lot with beats that you may think sound generic, but it's getting the placements and it's being on billboards. And that's because they're keeping it simple, but at the same time, they're having that contrast in their beats that keep the listener engaged. Like, listen to this Future song, hear how the intro sounds versus when the beat drops.
Took a shot at Henny, I been going brazen. Fuck this cash up on a new toy.
Now, though it's still the same melody, but they switch the key for the remainder of the beat, which hooks you in and then just keeps you listening to it. Most would just mute the drums and just play the sample that has been playing within the beat already, like. Which it doesn't really sound bad, but when you also have like vocals in the sample, vocals could really just become very repetitive and it could really get boring fast. So instead, you can mess around with the other chops and make it an intro. So that sounds better because it's a different groove of the sample when the beat drops. But we can't stop here because we don't want it to be repetitive throughout the rest of the beat. We still want to add elements to switch it up. And I also want to mention that it's good to chop more than you need because this pattern actually two different sample chops. So if I go to sample mute, go to the program, I played this one. I played that 3 times until I got to the 4th bar and I switched it up with this one. And it's always good to switch it up at that 4th bar because if I just kept it all the same, it would just sound boring. And we could do the same for making our other patterns as well. That's why I chopped out this part. That sounds way different from this. Sound like it could be a whole nother beat. Now, a good rule of thumb is to switch it up every 4 bars or every 8 bars, but you don't want to make it too dramatic, especially if you're doing it every 4 bars, because then that's just going to throw the artist off and it's just going to sound like you're doing too much, because they the ones that have the melodies and the ideas to finish it off. So I could come up with a pattern like this. I could just have it like that, but I also have this chop. I could just play 1 bar of this and 1 bar of that, so it would sound something like this. I could easily just put up a halftime and make that the outro. And yeah, at the end of the day, it is all subjective and you should do what sounds cool to you. But if you use these rule of thumbs, then you won't overthink making your beats. Now, not to make this video too long, but if you want a better understanding of arrangement, like how many bars per section, like the intro, the hook, and the verse, and how to do that on an MPC, I made a video of a common workflow arranging beats and showing you how to turn it into a full beat using song mode and showing you how to export it as well. And you can watch that video here. Peace.